Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We're doing something a little different this time. We recorded this podcast quite a while ago, right before the flooding hit in March. So we've kind of been holding on to it as we work through the flood and try to address some other things. But it's a good episode, so we wanted to get it out there. And in the midst of all the damage to the bridges, it's really a good time to talk about the County Bridge Match Program, which is a program we instituted 4 years ago as part of the Innovation Act. And it really is a great example of some of the things that we've been trying to accomplish at the DOT. That partnership and engagement, I talk about this program a lot in that, if we had designed this program for local bridges alone, if we at the DOT had decided how it was going to go, I'm sure we would have done a good job, but we probably wouldn't have served our customers, the counties, as well as we could have. And so we really worked together with some folks at the county level to design a program that is simple, it's streamlined, and it's very easy to use on their side, while also it stresses innovation and rewards innovation at the county level, which is something that we were trying to do with the program to make sure that county bridges are getting addressed. We got a lot of them. It's one of our bigger challenges in transportation. And so to partner at the state level with folks at the county to innovate and share best practices, it really is a successful program and something that we're very proud of and should be excited about here at the DOT. On the podcast, the guests are Larry Dix. He's the executive director of the Nebraska Association of County Officials, or NACO as it's most commonly known, and Mark Traynowicz, our state bridge engineer, who has really spearheaded the project from the very beginning. And so with that, let's get to the podcast. Okay, welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks for being here. I've got two guests today. First, Mark Traynowicz from the Bridge Office. Mark, good to see you.
Good to be here, Kyle.
And our special guest today, Larry Dix from the Association of Counties, NACO.
Yes, thank you.
Larry,
thank you very much.
Good to see you. Larry, you were one of the first people I met when I moved to Nebraska. You probably don't even remember.
I do remember
you
that.
You do? Well,
I do remember that.
I remember walking over in the Capitol. It was my first time in the Capitol. You sort of toured me around and introduced me to some folks, and it was very memorable.
Yeah.
And you were very kind that day to take care of me because I was feeling a little fish out of water, so it was good.
Well, it's always been a great relationship
Yeah.
that we've had with Department of Roads then and Department of Transportation now.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and about NACO.
Sure. So NACO is an organization of 93 counties. All 93 counties are members.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska only has 93 counties, and so
Only 93 counties.
Only, yeah. It's been an organization that's been around for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
Formed in late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we've got documentation back to when we had our first conference in the 1800s.
Wow.
One of those associations has probably been around as long as any association that we know of. But we advocate on behalf of county government. That's really our primary role.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of other things. And I started with the association in '91, have been executive director since 2002. Spent a few years, like you said, roaming around the Capitol and testifying and talking about a number of
when I hear
issues.
Advocate, I often think legislative work, but there's a lot more to it, what you do in terms of coordination and education and learning about what challenges counties are facing. And of course, if one county's facing it, oftentimes others are too. And so resources and sharing of ideas, and I've been to some of your conferences, they're very well put on.
Yeah, the year becomes sort of cyclical in the fact that at this time we're all pretty much legislation that just dominates. Then we roll into education at different parts of the year. Then we roll into district meetings where we get into smaller groups, and then we end up the year with the annual conference. And that's sort of the culmination of a year. And by that time, we're preparing what legislation we're going to introduce for the next year.
We've appreciated the partnership. We attend a lot of your meetings, and whether it's myself talking about where the DOT is headed and the opportunities to work together, but even some specific experts about different things like bridges. And I know, Mark, you've been to many of the meetings. I've been on the agenda with you.
Go to NACO almost all the time. So district meetings and annual meetings.
What role does the bridge office here at DOT play in that partnership?
We got involved with NACO before I took over. I took over the state bridge engineer spot in December 2008. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, we had some issues with our National Bridge Inspection Standards. Mm-hmm. The certified bridge inspectors, we were having an issue with that. We just weren't doing a very good job.
Statewide inspecting bridges.
Statewide inspecting bridges.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so that's a problem. It's a safety problem.
Yeah.
And so it really dealt with keeping our bridges safe. And so it started before me a little while, but since early 2008, 2007, we've been attending NACO meetings regular. I think there's been very few district meetings that someone from the bridge office hasn't been at. And those happen quarterly. And I've been, since the County Bridge Match Program came along, I've been attending a lot of the NACO meetings myself, along with Babrak Niazi or Kent Miller.
Yeah.
So we've been really active, with NACO.
And on the inspection side, a lot of it's coordinating the statewide inspections. Is that it? Are we doing inspections as the state, or are we just coordinating and keeping a record?
Yeah, the counties do their own inspections. We remind them when they're supposed to do them. Most of the counties do a really good job.
Yeah.
Some need a reminder.
Yeah.
You do this once every 2 years.
Yeah, there's a nice rhythm to it, I suspect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some of them just don't have many bridges. So we send out quarterly reminders. We send out monthly reminders if they're past due. We give training. Right now there's a refresher class for certified bridge inspectors going on today in association with LTAP. So, we do anything to help keep our bridges safe and help remind them, the counties, how to keep their bridges
That's interesting to me that you mentioned that some counties don't have many bridges, where we have others that have hundreds, thousands of bridges, and so the diversity of the counties shows up even in bridges. I'm sure as the NACO guy, you know about the diversity.
Yeah, the diversity is crazy. As you look at the state of Nebraska, all the water really runs from west to the east. And
diagonal usually, so we have to cross it twice with all of our north-south roads.
And as you get further to the east, the steepness of the slopes, the length of the bridges just dramatically increase. And I can't really remember the number of counties that don't have any, quote, bridges by the definition, but there are a few. And
I think there's 5 that don't have any bridges that are over 20 feet.
Right. And so when we go to have county board workshops and things like that, we say, there are 5 counties that don't have bridges, and the other board members are like, oh, they're so blessed.
I need to move there, I'm a county board member. Well, I appreciate you guys being here, and the partnership, it is strong, Larry. We've been working to even improve it, and there's always issues that can come up where county roads meet state highways, and other opportunities to just work with local agencies, whether those are cities or counties, to make sure that as we build highway projects, we're serving the needs of Nebraska. And so I appreciate the partnership, appreciate being here today. We wanted to focus a little bit on the County Bridge Match Program, and I think that's where, Mark, you've gotten really involved, and really where I think the partnership has really shown through. The program was developed as part of the Transportation Innovation Act, which we passed in 2016. And I remember back when we were going through the legislative process, Larry, and there was a lot of energy around the expressway system and changing some of our contracting methods, but there was also a pretty vocal group talking about bridges. And I remember the stat I would say is there's 11,000 county bridges in the state, and 50% of them are over 50 years old. It just gives you a sense of the challenge, and the counties are working hard and diligently to try and keep up, and some have struggled. And so the idea was, what can we do as a state? We talked a lot about money. That was something that the counties were saying, well, what we need is money. But as we talked, it was clear there was maybe some opportunity, and I think the role of the state can't just be to give money. It needs to be a convener of sorts of best practices and best ideas and innovations, and I think that's what we were able to create with this program. So the program legislates up to $40 million through 2023 of state resources to be used on county bridges, and that was kind of it. And then we came home with a bill that passed and thought, okay, now what? And that's where I think really the partnership has shown through, because Mark, you took the lead and helped develop the program. But I know, and I say this a lot outside of the building here, is that if we had done that by ourselves, if we'd closed the door at DOT and created a program, it would look very, very different than it actually does.
The counties are learning from it, and we're learning from it, and we're better because of it, and we're going to get better.
And the simplicity of the program in terms of ease of use for counties, I think, has been something that we can be really proud of. And maybe, Larry, you could just talk a little bit about what the program has meant to counties.
Sure. What it's meant to counties is really solving this problem that all counties are facing because of the age of a majority of bridges and the number that are becoming structurally deficient, and the fact that over time, the equipment that's going across these bridges is not what it was 50 years ago. And so that's created a little bit of the problem. But when you talk about the partnership, and I go to national meetings and I have my peers, and the Nebraska County Bridge Match Program is brought up from time to time, and they're like, it's amazing, the partnership. How did you do this? How does this work? I think that's a testament to your leadership and Mark's involvement in it. I mean, it's truly a partnership. When we sat down at that meeting, there's a number of people there from the Department of Transportation, and there's a number of highway superintendents there, and we work together. We don't always agree, but at the end of the day, we say, yep, that's it.
Well, and that was the key, designing a program that counties could really see the most value in and make it easy for them to use. So maybe, Mark, talk a little bit about how we developed it.
Well, the bill was signed,
Yeah.
and I think the two important things in the bill were innovative solutions. We're asking for counties to come up with innovative solutions, and then in cooperation with county officials. So the first thing we did after the bill was signed is reach out to some county highway superintendents. There's 7 on the group, Larry being one of them. I think that the county highway superintendents met to talk about it individually. We met to talk about it individually, and I think we had two-way different ideas of how the program was going to work. So the first meeting was pretty tough.
I remember that when you guys came back and were like, we're not on the same page here.
Exactly. And yes, it was this conflict to start. And we made it through the first meeting.
Yeah.
And by the end of the meeting, I think we were okay. At least we didn't kill each other. And then we all went back and regrouped. And the good thing for us is we saw the county's issues. We know the state issues when it comes to state highways and state bridges. I didn't understand some of the issues that counties have to deal with. And these people deal with a lot of things. It's not just bridges that they're dealing with. I really think in the second meeting we made a ton of progress. Within about 4 meetings we had developed at least a draft criteria on how the program's going to move forward. Literally the bill was passed in the spring of 2016. By August we were ready to put out the first RFP for proposals for counties to submit. And I think the first request for proposals went out in October.
I remember when we did the first groundbreaking, and I believe it was very close to a year since the bill had been signed. So we went from a bill signing all the way through the development of a program to applications to awards to a letting to on the ground in less than a year. It was something.
It's got to be a pretty simple program.
Right. Yeah. And that is what I love about it, is that it's so easy in government to overanalyze and overdo that sort of thing. The application is very short. The way that we score the projects is fairly simple and transparent. And then once you are awarded a project, it's easy to start getting the money flowing.
You bet.
And we don't dictate to counties how they have to do the letting or who has to do the work. We just let the counties make those decisions. They're good at them. They've been doing them. And all we do is approve and send them the cash.
Yeah, it's a match program. I think it would be different if it were just a grant program where we design the bridges. I think one of the states, Ohio, they basically chose the bridges, they designed them, they built them, then gave them to the county. This is a match program, so the county has at least 45% in each bridge. And so they're doing things their way. They're building bridges that look like county bridges, and they're doing it the way that they're doing it. But I think the best part about it is they're working together. So counties are working with other counties, maybe multi-county proposals or bundling bridges.
Yeah.
And they're learning from each other.
I remember when the conversations in the Capitol were starting about bundling, and I'm new to Nebraska, and I started poking around and talking about Pennsylvania where they bundled 600 bridges, and I thought I was going to get strung up and run out of the Capitol. But we're not doing that. We're bundling it at a much more Nebraska way.
Yeah, I remember the year before we had this, we had the hearing and we talked about bundling. And I remember testifying in support of this concept, and behind me were rows of county board members that were saying, Larry, you've gone off the deep end now. And it was part of this, okay, well, we got to build trust. And Mark, I think you hit on it. When we had those first meetings, I remember our highway superintendents, we met at the NACO office, and as a group, we sort of moved out here, and then we had these conversations. The great part about this program, it's built a tremendous amount of trust between Department of Transportation and our highway superintendents and our county officials. And I just love working on projects like this because it builds that trust between state government and county government, and we're the closest thing to any partnership you're ever going to find.
Well, and that's so valuable because then as other opportunities rise, we've got the trust and can move forward. So it is a good example of that. So we are bundling projects in the program, not like Pennsylvania at 600 at a time, but in a handful at a time, right,
Yeah,
Mark?
exactly. I think it ranges from about as few as 2 bridges to about 7 or 8 bridges.
So we put those all in one contract, and one contractor's bid on all 7 in that example?
Yeah.
And that, in theory, saves us some money.
It might be multiple counties. Many times it's 2 or 3 counties working together because they don't have enough to do 7 bridges on their own. So they get 3 different counties, put 7 bridges together, 6 or 8 or whatever it is, and you get that economy of scale.
And are we seeing that in the prices?
We are, at least from we're finished with the first round now. They're all through. We've paid them all, or just about paid everybody. We've got all the invoices in. And almost every project has come in under estimate. We haven't done an analysis of what an individual bridge costs as compared to one that's been bundled, but we're going to do that. You know, you've got to look at things like where in the state it is and those types of things. But we are seeing that they're coming in well under the estimation, so
that's good.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
That's good. What other innovations besides bundling are we seeing in the program?
Removing bridges, which doesn't seem like a huge innovation, but there's so many bridges out. There's over 11,000 county bridges out there. You said, you know, it's upward around 50% that are over 50 years old. You know, when we developed the program, there were about 2,100 deficient bridges that we're trying to take care of. So just removing bridges from the system. You know, if there's an old bridge, it's either closed or in bad shape, just to take it off the system. And sometimes some of these roads aren't needed. It's a tough decision for a county to make. But we're seeing somewhere in the order of around 8 to 10 bridges around that have been removed from the system that probably wouldn't have been otherwise. So it gets it off the inventory, gets them off the routine inspection cycle.
So you're not talking about replacing a bridge with another type of crossing. You're just saying just flat out remove them from
Many
the
times
system.
it's remove the bridge. It's just an opening and there's no way to get
Larry, are
across.
counties, I mean, I know that's a big challenge because you know you've got a road network that the county and the people in that county have relied on, but if you were to build the road network up from scratch today, it might not look like it looks just because of different needs and different economies. How big a challenge is that for counties?
Well, the challenge is there. What's happening is the depopulation. And so we're getting into a situation where we've got some rural areas that really there's no one using those roads as we've depopulated. And you're right, if we were to do it again, we wouldn't probably even build that road. That land would all be ownership of the landowners. You always get to that decision point where you say, okay, I'm going to give the land back and so somebody can farm it. But the question always is, what if in the future I have to rebuild the road? Well, you know, I think right now in the course of history we're going through, we're not seeing any roads being rebuilt at this point in time. There just isn't that population base going to those areas. Farmers are getting larger and larger tracts of land, and so we just don't really see that anywhere in the near future to open up that grid the way we used to have 1 mile grids on every township road around the state.
I remember in Kansas, my work on some of the planning efforts down there, it was like 80% of our counties had peaked in population before 1900. So it had been going on for a while, but there's still thriving economies in those counties on the agricultural side. And so it's about trying to have the transportation network serve what the needs are today and in the future. If that means that we can get by with fewer bridges, I think we're all for that, understanding that sometimes those bridges are important to people too. So it's a pretty big balancing act, and one I don't envy county boards in trying to walk that tightrope.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue of if we can build a bridge a mile or so away, but it's safe, and the farmers can say, I can bring additional weight and equipment, there's some benefit to them. They may have to drive a couple extra miles, but man, they're loading up semis and they're going across bridges and saying, I feel confident, I'm safe.
It's a longer trip, but I have to take fewer of them. That's a good way to think of it.
Yep.
And so taking off bridges is one way. Mark, what other innovations are we seeing?
In that same line, they've done some multiple pipes, putting in culvert pipes that are smaller than a bridge.
And what's the benefit of those?
Well, you have a more frequent overtopping, so the road may overtop with a 5-year storm or a 10-year storm, but at least you can get your heavy equipment across. There's no width restrictions, there's no weight restrictions. Many of these are on not minimum maintenance roads, but minimally maintained roads, so the farmers are using them to try to get to their fields. So it makes a lot of sense. The counties are installing a lot of these themselves.
Some are they cheaper to put in than a bridge?
Oh, very much. Cheaper to maintain. A buried structure just seems to last a very long time. And some counties have gotten away from doing work for themselves. Some counties haven't, so they go into these multi-county proposals, and one county might teach another county how to do these things.
Oh, yeah.
So then it feeds on itself.
Yeah.
Counties are learning from each other on how to do stuff.
Well, and I know, Larry, that's one of the whole roles of NACO is to help counties share ideas and things, but sometimes you can take it up a notch when you have a program like this where there's some funds available to help them get there, so that's good.
Some counties have been doing these precast deck elements where it's an accelerated bridge construction. They're doing it for a long time. And they just put these panels in next to each other. Lego style. And they're doing more of that. This last round, one county went from the 2-foot panels to 4-foot panels. So they're getting a little better at what they're doing. 2 counties are doing precast substructures,
Oh, wow.
which is something that counties haven't.
Are those manufactured in the state, or are they brought in from outside?
Basically what they're allowing is the contractor to manufacture them themselves.
Oh, no kidding.
They can either have a fabricator do it, like a Concrete Industries or a Core Slab that we have in.
Just up to the contractor, however they want to build
or
them.
the contractor could build them at their shop in the wintertime and then just bring them out into the bridge site
Very
in
cool.
the spring. Yep.
So the program has been widely heralded and a lot of good news out there. How many bridges have we done, Mark?
We're at 200 right now. So the County Bridge Match Program, we've done about 66 a round, and the total is 200 for 3 rounds right now. That's pretty good to be at this point in the program. Only after 3 rounds to have that many bridges. What's interesting about that, when we first started, we set the benchmark, we measured the number of structurally efficient bridges of August in 2016, roughly 2,100 bridges. So the County Bridge Match Program has 200 of those bridges. Well, the counties themselves, with their own money, have replaced or are going to replace about 160 of those. So now you're talking 360 bridges.
And that's part of it. So we're matching the funds on the state side, but the counties are still able to use what they're saving on those to spend in other places.
Right. And that's the great part about the match, because that creates the partnership. But yet some of the smaller structures, the individual ones, now there's a little bit of local money that is freed up so the counties can take care of those, where otherwise counties would have had to save up many, many years, and they can move those to the match program. Well, now they can take what they were saving every year and start to pick off these smaller ones. And that's exactly what's happening.
So, Mark, my notes tell me 59 of the 93 counties have had a bridge?
Yeah, there's actually 55. There's 82 counties that have eligible bridges.
Okay.
So 82 counties that were on that structurally efficient list. There's been 68 counties that have submitted a proposal or been part of a proposal. 55 of those counties have been selected. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got 55 counties that have gotten money out of the first 3 years of this thing. In this round, we had 8 counties for the first time get money. The working group really talked about this last year.
Yeah.
How do we reach out to counties that haven't gotten money yet? Because we're concerned if a county keeps applying or just hasn't applied because they don't think they'll get money. How do we get those people involved?
Yeah, it's always a balance. You want to pick the right project, the bridges that are most in need, where the most innovations are occurring, but you also want everybody to have the opportunity to take advantage of the program.
Sure.
It's the same thing we think about when we think about highway project selection. It's always a balance, lots of needs. So 360 bridges, if you count all told, still lots of work to do.
Still lots.
Still lots of work to do. One of the great things, I think, when we're talking about how to get these other counties involved, the partnership that we've created with our highway superintendents are somewhat regionalized. We've got people from all across the state. So not only have we built this partnership with Department of Transportation, but now we've built the partnership within the highway superintendents of reaching out and helping other counties. And some of our highway superintendents have helped other counties fill out the form, apply, and that's just helped tremendously.
Yeah. It's always some of the intangible benefits that are sometimes even more valuable than the money. I know the counties wouldn't agree with that. They want the money. So the program, as currently constituted in statute, runs through 2023. So we got a little bit of time to keep going. I know there'll probably be some discussions at the end about what that looks like, but I know that we all see a lot of value in it and want to seize upon the success and keep going for these next few years, and I'm sure we'll continue the partnership beyond.
I look at as if the counties that weren't doing as much as the counties that are, if just through the program, the counties that were doing less are going to be raising their game up a little bit as it goes and get better at what they do. I think it's a win. If they continue to work together in multiple counties. I don't know how many counties worked with other counties to put out bridge packages in the past. Very few, if any.
Very few.
And I would guess
Very
moving
few.
forward, even after this program, after 2023, I would guess they're going to still do
You'll
that.
see some of that.
Yep.
Excellent.
The one piece that's also there, the working group, after they analyzed the first round, then they came back and said, okay, we need a couple tweaks in this application process. And the great thing about this group is every time they go through a round, then they reanalyze, look at it, and make real subtle tweaks to it that I think every time we issue this, we improve it.
Make it a
we
little
make
bit
a little
better,
improvement.
We talked about it being a dynamic program,
Yep.
and it's going to change, and we knew if we put this thing out in just a few months, we couldn't get it all right.
Yep.
So every time it was true. Every round we make a little change. This next round we'll do something different,
Right.
just to get a little better, but it's incrementally better.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, that's the idea. Well, guys, thank you for all the work you've done to get us where we are. You both had a big hand in the success, and I know there's many others, but really appreciate your leadership, and we're really making progress on what really is one of the most important transportation issues of our day here in our state. So great work, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so that was a great conversation about the success of the County Bridge Match Program. I want to thank Larry and Mark for their continued work to make the program successful and keep innovating on it every year. It really is a program I think we can all be proud of at the DOT, addressing one of our biggest transportation challenges in Nebraska. And as always, I want to remind everybody that even though the weather is starting to turn, we still have some construction projects out there. So be sure you're slowing down in construction zones, keep your hands on the wheel, put your phone down, and always, always buckle up. All right, thanks.